Did you know that simply adding a window to your ship can drastically alter its interior layout? By attaching a window, you can turn something like this into this, or this into this. Starfield cleverly gives you the impression that you have complete freedom over how you build your ship by providing a wide array of different parts that you can connect in various ways. However, in reality, the ship editor lacks some basic functionality to support this, severely limiting your creative options and freedom. Most ship parts, for example, cannot be freely rotated, and those that can are only flippable horizontally or vertically. Furthermore, and this will be the main focus of this video, there is no way to preview the internal layout of your ship before purchasing it. Instead of a preview, Starfield requires you to do a review, assembling what you want and then going back to your ship to see if the change you made is the one you actually wanted. If not, you have to go back to the editor, make another change, and repeat this process until you're satisfied. This is both expensive and time-consuming. It can be difficult to accept this lack of control for people who value not only how the ship looks from the outside, but also the functionality of a well-built interior. And this brings us to the first major issue. To reiterate, you won't see the inside of your ship until you complete the build and physically go inside. The worst part is that most people will have no idea what interior details and elements they accidentally removed during the building process. In fact, I bet that most players have no idea what certain HAB's back walls look like. Take a look at this simple example. When viewed from the inside, the connection to another module looks like this. We get a similar effect if we use a window instead of a door. However, this is what the backside of that habitat really looks like when it's intact. We can observe the effects of missing elements in a few additional examples. For instance, this bathroom will completely disappear if you add a window or another HAB at the connection point behind it. Or let's look at a fan-favorite module, the Nova Galactic Living Quarters 2x2 HAB. Here we have a pool table that simply disappears if you put a window or a doorway behind it. But if you use the connection point on the right side of it, the table remains intact. These scenarios are unavoidable because you must connect different HAB modules, causing some interior elements to vanish in the process. The core issue is that the players are unable to make informed decisions and visualize the internal layout during the construction phase. Thankfully, Bethesda relocated the most critical elements within various HABs to safe locations, preventing accidental removal. We can see this in the following example. The workbenches in a workshop module are arranged in such a way that you cannot delete them if you continue to add windows or doors. Another major issue with the current SHIPBUILDER version is the game's seemingly random placement of doors and ladders, which can result in extremely confusing paths from the ship's entrance to the cockpit. In this example, the game creates a doorway at the farthest connection point on the left side if connected like this, or on the right side if connected like this. The same thing happens if you connect them like this. Doors are again placed in the same spot. And before sharing your thoughts on the attach method in the comments, please understand that I've attempted it several times, but unfortunately, it hasn't proven to be the solution for this issue, contrary to what some have suggested. For those unaware, there is a misconception circulating that suggests you can spawn doors and ladders by hovering over a specific connection point, selecting it, and then attaching another element directly to it. Here, let me show you what I mean. If we apply this method to a simple example like this one, the game will still generate doors at the exact same spot as before, either on the far left or right side, despite attaching another HAB to a specific point. The logic for ladder placement is similar. In this scenario, after stacking the HABs on top of each other, the ladders were generated at the point closest to the entrance. I also tried to apply the attach method here, hoping to spawn the ladders in the middle. However, as mentioned earlier, this method proved ineffective. The ladders ended up in the same spot as if you connected the HABs in the usual manner. If we simply place the new HAB at the bottom, the ladders are now on the opposite side, implying yet another layer of logic at play here. Connecting them like this was the only way I could spawn ladders in the middle, which messes up the exterior and is not what I want. Few people mentioned having some success with placing the HABs for the desired path first and then adding the rest. I had no luck with this, and no matter how hard I tried to make it work, the logic behind the interior layout remained a mystery to me. This whole thing felt like a battle with an invisible enemy. You get a hit now and then, but most of the time you'd miss. In these examples, we face shipbuilding problems on a smaller scale. Now multiply everything by how complex you want your ship to be, and you'll have a better understanding of how these issues add up, potentially ruining your experience. I recorded over 2 hours of me trying every possible combination multiple times, connecting everything in a different order, and even experimenting with different cockpit positions. What I learned is that in the end, nothing mattered. The game kept following its internal rules, whatever they are. Perhaps HABs have predefined door and ladder placements, with doors prioritizing one side of the HAB while ladders favor the opposite. Maybe it also matters if things are on top or the bottom. There could be even more conditions the game checks before creating connections, but regardless of what's happening under the hood, end users are not informed of it at all. The bottom line is that 1. The ship editor lacks an intuitive way to visualize the internal layout of your ship and exert more control over it. And 2. Players shouldn't feel compelled to resort to workarounds to navigate a, frankly, incomplete game feature. Even if doors and ladders spawn exactly where you want them, a minor change such as swapping out the reactor, replacing weapons, or just altering the ship's color can trigger the game to reset and recalculate internal paths, often resulting in suboptimal solutions. Speaking of solutions, for a feature-complete shipbuilder, the editor should include an option for a cutout view of our ship, allowing us to see the full interior without exiting the editor. Perhaps something like this. Given that doors, ladders, and windows can significantly alter the interior, as demonstrated at the beginning of the video, real-time visibility of the final results within the editor becomes crucial. But for this to be fully effective, another critical requirement is to have complete control over the placement of doors and ladders. Probably the best way for Bethesda to address this oversight is by providing players with structural parts, like a door frame or ladder support that can be attached to HABs at desired connection points without restrictions. So either that, or just allow us to mark each connection point with an open or blocked state, which will dictate where doors and ladders are allowed to be placed. Either option would work and serve the same purpose. I mean, anything is better than the current flawed algorithm, right? Until that time comes, however, we have to resort to using what we have available right now, which brings us to our next topic. Instead of relying on the game to generate a meaningful interior for your spaceship, you can take advantage of the situation by utilizing parts designed specifically for this purpose. Companionways and other unique components can and should be used if you want to take charge of the interior layout. While storerooms can also serve as an alternative to companionways, I haven't tested them as thoroughly. You can create doors exactly where you want by placing a companionway between two HABs. If you want to use them to force ladders at specific locations, they behave exactly as you would expect. However, there are a few caveats to companionways, which I'll try to demonstrate quickly with a couple of examples. The most important thing to remember when using these is that only one companionway will establish a proper connection between the two modules. Using more than one creates dead ends in the layout. In this example, the modules won't have two sets of ladders connecting both HABs, as you might expect. What really happens is that only one ladder, and in this case that would be the one further from the entrance, goes all the way to the habitat module on top, while the first one leads to a dead end. Now comes the mind-boggling part. Check this out. With 3 companionways between the HABs, the game creates 2 dead ends and 1 proper connection. That much we've established so far. However, the pathing it created makes 0 sense. Similar to before, the ladders for accessing the top HAB are placed at the furthest connection point. Meanwhile, the ladders in the middle, as seen here, lead to a dead end. The very first companionway is also a dead end, but you can only access it by going all the way to the far side of the lower HAB, climb, or boost up the big ladders there. Enter the upper module, and then backtrack to the opposite side to go down into the companionway.
No words. No words.
I could cry too, Jody, but for wholly different reasons. The same applies if you want to use companionways to create doors. When you have 2 on the left side, it's the first one that establishes a proper connection to the next module, while the one farther away becomes a dead end. When dealing with 3 companionways, we encounter another bizarre situation. And this time, the connections formed in the middle, while the other 2 companionways lead to straight dead ends. As mentioned earlier, when connecting 2 modules using companionways or storerooms, avoid using more than one. If your goal is to establish a looping interior, your only valid options are the HopeTech Crossbrace or Nova Cross passage. The HopeTech solution has more mass than Nova, but it provides additional attachment points for future customization. The choice is entirely yours. These modules connect habitats exactly as expected, and you can use as many of them as you need. They will create doors and hallways precisely where you place them, with zero surprises. The only downside of these elements is that they can easily increase the dimensions of your ship, detracting from the rational utilization of the total height, width, and mass. On the upside, you can take advantage of the gaps they create and place various cargo holds, fuel tanks, and even landing gears between them to save some space. These were my primary concerns with the default ship editor, but there are even more quality of life features that could improve the whole shipbuilding workflow. Feel free to share your feedback in the comments below and let us know what changes you'd like to see. Here are some ideas. At the moment, we can't create a new ship from scratch. Instead, we need to disassemble another ship we own to build a new one. The rotation of parts is very limited. While flipping is sometimes sufficient, having the ability to rotate parts in 30, 45, and 60-degree increments would unlock even more creative options. There is currently no way to check the required landing thrust, which only appears as an error when the invisible threshold is exceeded. It's frustrating to encounter not enough landing gears error when making minor changes to the ship. There's not enough variety in parts, both in looks and stats. I hope that future DLCs and mods will bring new parts, manufacturers, and visual styles to the game. We can't store the old pieces we've removed from the previous ship to repurpose them for another project. We can't choose precise colors because there's no manual RGB or hex color code input. I wouldn't mind a color picker too. I know this ain't Photoshop, but come on. Why not let us tweak weapon and engine colors, like in Elite Dangerous? Is it realistic? Nah, but it's a cool way to add more style to your ship. At the moment, we can't see the level requirements for parts we haven't unlocked yet. I get questions about this all the time, so why this basic piece of information wasn't a feature from the start is beyond me. Another big issue, in my opinion, is that some types of HABs need a rework. For example, the cargo hull, brig, engineering, computer core, and a few other HAB types are pretty much useless. They add nothing but unnecessary weight to your ship, so a rework to make them more useful should be considered. And last but certainly not least, we can't save work in progress while building a ship. You have to build a ship in one go, so you better hope there are no crashes. As it stands right now, building a nice ship with a great-looking exterior and interior is quite a challenge. Many of us, including myself, have been brainstorming over the mechanics behind the interior connections, trying to figure out how it actually works, but to no avail. I mean, ship customization is fantastic when you're still new to the game, but as soon as your creativity kicks in and you want to explore more options, all the flaws with this system resurface. I've seen many people quit ship customization altogether because of how incomplete and illogical it can be at times. In the end, players should not have to fight the system and its limitations to overcome the burdens of missing features. Instead, the system should be adjusted for the players by becoming more transparent and providing greater control over the process. And why not take it a step further? Why can't we have some form of a blueprint system that we can save for future use and maybe even share with others, so anyone can easily import cool designs? Even if you don't have immediate access to all the parts, the selected blueprint can notify you of missing components, allowing you to buy and collect them first. And when you're done gathering everything, boom, you receive your new ship with the exact same looks and stats as in the blueprint. But I'm probably asking too much at this point. However, Bethesda did say that they plan to support Starfield for years to come, so don't forget to leave your feedback in the comments below. Anyway, thank you for watching. In case you found the video useful, smash that like button and share it with others. Click subscribe if you haven't already, and also turn on the bell notification so you don't miss our next video. We really appreciate your support. Until next time, have a great day and a ton of fun.